Hi everyone and welcome to the Recruitment Brothers podcast. With an age gap of 17 years and two heavy Swedish accents, we're here to cover everything about, yeah, you guessed it right, recruitment.
And now over to the older brother Rickard. Welcome to our podcast. Although recruitment is our focus, we will also talk about sports, business development and leadership. And we will invite some inspiring guests. Let's get straight into it.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Recruitment Brothers podcast. I'm calling in from a very sunny Barcelona today actually. Where are you calling from, Rickard?
I'm calling in from Suriname, Latin America,
Suriname.
Caribbean.
Nice. Back visiting Demis and the people.
Exactly. So it's super nice sitting here in the office, looking out, and it's a very crowded road outside here. So I see that people are very hectic during the day here.
I see. Has it been any public holidays, any last minute public holidays in Suriname now that you've been there?
Yeah, actually it was the Chinese New Year and a part of the population is Chinese here as well. So they celebrated that last week.
Super cool, super cool. So unfortunately, since both of us have been traveling, we didn't manage to find time to release this episode last week. So thanks a lot for everyone's patience, but it has not been without its reasons. I think last episode you teased everyone a little bit about your journey in the Caribbean and Latin America. How has it been so far?
No, good. I had a surrealistic moment going to St. Bart's and see all the historical buildings that was from the Swedish era of the history from 1784 to 1878. Actually, St. Bart's was under Swedish rules, and during this time, the free harbor, the free port was established there, and a lot of the buildings in the town called Gustavia, after the Swedish king, was set up and are still standing. So it was really interesting to walk around in the streets and take pictures and read yourself up on the history.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's been, like you mentioned, a bucket list trip for you. So I can imagine it must be surrealistic to finally be there. One thing I was curious about, I don't know if you managed to speak to some, I don't know, either locals or people living there, but what do they say when you say that you're from Sweden? Do they have any reaction to that, or is it like something that they don't think about?
I think they react on it. I don't think so many Swedes are going there for the historical part. I think if there are Swedish people traveling there, it's for like more luxury vacation. So they seeing me running around in the streets and backpacking and being, not backpacking, but almost looking like a backpacker running around there and talking so much about all the details and being so invested into it. I think that made them very, but surprised and a bit like motivated as well to, be engaged in the conversations and so on. And it's actually a place also called Les Select that is like a pub or an outdoor bar, cafe, whatever you can call it. They have branded it in like Swedish colors, and the guy that started it like 75 years ago was very into the Swedish history. So that is kind of a gathering place also for tourists in general, and it have like branded it in yellow and blue and having some Swedish texts and stuff. So it was cool.
Really cool. Oh, it's fun that at least some of them, remembers the heritage and can be proud about it as well. So super cool. And then you went to...
Yeah, and one last detail as well. I must give a big heads up to France and to the French society there, because they really honor the Swedish part of the history. So everywhere where you see flags, for example, a French flag, a EU flag, St. Bart's flag, there is also a Swedish flag. So they always include Sweden into the part of the island.
Super cool. Yeah, that's not to be taken for granted. I mean, since it was so long time ago, they could easily have erased it or, tried to tweak the history in another way. So super cool. And then you went off to Curacao, no?
Yes, Curacao.
For some relaxing days.
Curacao, St. Martin. St. Martin was also a very interesting island because one part in the south was Dutch and the north part was French. So that was interesting, and to see the differences on the same island. And from there, I went to Curacao and had a few workation days, relaxing and working and exploring a bit. And then went here to Suriname then to work a few days as well before I go to Brazil and Brazil home to Norway. So yeah, a
Nice.
long journey, 2.5 week trip. And you have also been out in the wild, I was going to say. I've also been traveling and seeing new things and exploring stuff with friends. What have you been up to?
Yeah, no, absolutely. A little bit closer to home. We went to Andorra over the weekend to go skiing there. Really great slopes, good people. Yeah, can highly recommend it. Now was the first time I've been skiing outside of Sweden, so I don't have much to compare to, but it was very good. We had a good time. So coming back, we arrived yesterday, 3-hour bus ride after long skiing days and after skis and stuff. So I was quite drained both physically and mentally, but now slowly getting back to tempo again. So it was very nice. Very, very nice.
Nice to have things to look forward to. I think we have talked about it when we discussed work-life harmony, but I think it goes also into this topic with sales, that when you have things to look forward to, something that is planned for the future, it's much easier to go in and smash a target or smash a goal. And the same goes in sales, to be motivated to do those actions every week and chase those clients and sign those deals and, get all the business in. Because you are then using this for like but a holiday or experience or a client visit or something. And of course, a commission part and a bonus can boost your holiday and what you're planning to do. But it's very easy to go into those seasons of the year, like I see it, where you do different things and you have plans for the future, and then you can really go in and, for example, now focus 1 month, 100% business development after a holiday or an inspirational.
For sure, it becomes a trigger in that sense to have something to look forward to. But yeah, of course, we were not able to finish the full episode that we wanted to, or all the things that we wanted to talk about, rather say, last week. So we can continue on the topic on the business development. If you who have listened might have missed that episode, you can go back and listen to it, because we cover a lot of interesting things, both about what makes sales in recruitment so special compared to other industries. We speak about how it was when Rickard started off in the industry and how that has changed from now on, and we give some alternative ways on how to generate leads, some creative ways to that as well. But one thing that we teased a little bit about was the topic of business development cycles, because I think it's very easy in recruitment that you are so caught up in the moment, because you might have a lot of clients that are in need of your support. So you focus almost all of your energy and effort on delivery for a certain period of time. But then you get to this top of the hill when you have closed all of those needs, or, the roles are not there anymore, and you have not been focusing on business development during this delivery heavy period, let's say. So then you're there without roles. I don't know if you also see this problem or this trap, you could almost call it, in recruitment.
Yeah, I think it's a big trap. And I also think it's very tricky for many organizations that are more into, call it 360 recruitment, where you are doing everything. Because say, like you said, that you have a lot of positions to work with. So you maybe put the BD part aside, and then you're ending up with nothing when you have filled those positions, and it's very hard to then start up again, because then you start fresh. So I think the balancing it's tricky when you work 360 and in more niched firms. But if you have an organization that is set up in a way that you have a team that works with business all the time, so it's a part of their daily work, it creates like an ongoing flow. And I think we are somewhere in between. And I think we have a small challenge with this, to be honest. And I think the consistency is needed in everything you want to be successful in life. And then, of course, you can decide how much of the time are you going to spend on it, but you need to do some of it. And I think that is the tricky part. And also then decide what kind of setup should we have in our organization when we build this recruitment company. What setup do we have? Is there one team that do take-ins, like intakes of jobs? Is it one team that maintain? Is it one team that recruit? One team that even source only? Or are we doing 360? Or is some colleagues doing more of the BD, some more client management, some more recruitment? Or is everyone just specialized in their way of doing it and working in their field? And yeah,
I think I've seen it also like in our organization, that it can be a challenge when you're let's say smaller organization. So you're kind of also depending on that everyone is putting in their effort into recruitment and delivery. So the BD part can be set aside. And I remember like only a couple years ago, I think you and Björn, you were the main people, like the founders, only doing business development, and we had not developed these also splits internally when it comes to the intaker keeping a percentage of the placement fee. But yeah, it's something that we have worked on now. But I also think it's tricky. And one thing I would say there is and one thing that we have started to do more is to not put all the eggs in one basket, not let one or two people only be the ones that can bring in business, but to spread that responsibility. So we're not just dependent on one person. Because imagine then if you go to St. Martin and you're away for 2 weeks and then there's no client work done, that would be a really dangerous situation to be in. So spreading it out. And then I think one key is also, because some people will be really good at 360, right? They can deliver, they can take care of existing clients, they can both warm and cold, they can bring in new clients and sign completely fresh accounts. And then you have some people that are better in either 270 roles, where you're working more with broadening and reactivating existing clients, or people who are simply just doing 180, taking care of clients and delivery. But I think it's important in each of these roles, like regardless of how many degrees you're doing of the recruitment cycle, to keep the antenna on and to keep the radar on, which we have been speaking about a lot, that even people who are taking care of existing accounts should be able to fish for new roles from the clients they are working with, that you can feed the business. I think that's also one key to not relying on one person, because we have been speaking about it many times now over the last couple of episodes, but bringing in a completely new client, like a cold one, it takes time, it can be risky, you don't know if it will work. So the existing one will always be like the safer choice.
Yeah, back to the business development part again, after so many years in this industry, and I can tell you, I have worked in organizations that do a bit different from each other. But even with the organization with very clear like meeting bookers and account managers that was only focusing on bringing in new leads and signing new deals, even in those companies, I could tell you that 80% was not successful. It is a tough industry to be in because you are kind of advising someone, you are going to recruit for them and represent their company. You also need to stand out what is the unique selling point that you have that differentiate from another agency. So I think that is one thing. It's very hard to succeed as a salesperson in recruitment, and why I think sometimes, like you said, the 360 part can be good is because you are the expert, so you are actually selling what you are going to deliver. You are not selling for someone else, so you need to be accountable of what you say. A seller can just say something or drop whatever price they want just to get a signed contract, and then they are done handing over. So that is one thing. But what you need to do is you need to develop your skills over time. So you need to work, on the skill set that you have. Like, how am I connecting with people? What am I going to say? What niche, what industry, geographic area am I focusing on? And then keep the consistency. Because if you, for example, have a goal of prospecting 20 new contacts per week, if you stick to that planning, you do it every Tuesday, Thursday between 12 and 2 o'clock, for example. So you have booked activities and you do 20 per week. In a month, it's 80. In 2 months, it's 160. And then you build a pipeline that you can always go back to and maintain while adding new ones. So you need a consistency to be successful, and to be successful, you need to have skills. That is how I see it, and I'm not sure what your feeling are now. Also, because like you said, you also started with kind of sales and business development and moved the other way around into recruitment. But like, how do you feel about the balance and the way of working with BD now that started with it?
No, but exactly. I just started with BD before going into recruitment, and I remember the way I did it back then. It was also very, very much about just executing. It was just, like you said, prospect. I think I did 20 per day or something. That was my kind of goal I put for myself. So I always would prospect in the morning. Like I came in quite early, not at a ridiculous time, but I came in quite early. I could have my morning coffee. I could, start my day without distractions. When everyone starts, it's very difficult to prospect at 2 o'clock, I think, because then you get email from both candidates and clients and colleagues, and you can easily get swamped. So what I did, I started off in the morning, around 20 per day. And let's say I kept that on, it wasn't every day, but Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I focused on, okay, let me prospect 20 new leads. And then I followed up on the 20 that I had prospected 2 days before. So I managed to put this into a system, and I just learned by my own. I think you remember how it was. I was just like thrown out to the sea and could start to swim. So in the beginning, I knew it was just about consistency, because I got a lot of rejections, a lot of pushbacks, not a lot of people who were interested. But then you slowly start to get some. You get your first client meetings. They went well, the first ones I had. I remember I got some support when you jumped in there to the first ones. And of course, that created like a trigger, like, okay, I know it's working. So then I started to play around with like, okay, these meetings that I managed to book with these companies, what kind of approach did I take? When during the day did I reach out to them? What subject lines did I use? Who was it? Was it someone from TA, or was it a hiring manager? So I started to like almost A/B test the way I was doing things. And then I just kept consistency, like you say. It was just about, okay, 20 new ones every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I remember it was tough. This was like in 2022, 2023. A lot of companies were laying off after COVID and the pandemic, because they had overhired, and there was a boom in money in society. So a lot of companies had overhired. They were laying off people. So it was very tricky to get in. But it went kind of well, especially 2023. I think I kept a pace of at least one new cold client per month, whilst doing marketing and so on as well. So it was not only business development that I focused on. So I learned it the hard way. It was without the scraping tools and automated systems. Everything was manual. I had to come up with the templates and so on. But I'm happy because of it, because you get thick skin from it. And I think that helped me today as well when I do more of a 360 role, you could say, leading a team, doing recruitment and business development. It helps. A lot of things I learned from them that I take with me.
And like you said there, you kept the consistency, and you had like a goal per day. And I think that, like you said, you adjust, right? Because, for example, say that you do outreach to 20 companies in Barcelona, and they say, oh, but we have so many applications every day for people that want to come here. And then you do outreach for Madrid, and you see that, yeah, but in Madrid, they are struggling more because it's a very hot city. When it's the summer, it's not a beach town, blah, blah, blah. So you see that there's a bigger need in Madrid. So then maybe you find a way to go in and to approach our selling points towards Madrid over Barcelona, as an example. And then you figured out that the geographic area had a say in the way of working.
Yep.
And I think that is how many companies also find the specialization, to be honest, because that's how I figured out that the Nordic jobs worldwide was a need, is that I was in the industry for 7-8 years and figured out that there is a big need of Nordic speakers abroad, but no one have a niche of doing it. So whoever you almost talk with say like, yeah, we are struggling to find Swedish in Ireland. Okay, but that is a niche then, and then we specialize, and then we set a clear goal. And that is kind of maybe a thing we will talk a bit more about later with the branding part and more the personal branding. But we put in the branding that, we want to be best in the world in recruiting Nordic speakers to go abroad. So we put a really high, like, what do you call it? Like a high expectations on ourselves, going out and saying that we are going to be the best, and we are the best. And that also helped. So we went in with that confidence of like, yeah, but we are best in the world to recruit Nordic speakers. And okay, we need 3 Norwegians. Okay, we have a pipeline of 2,000 candidates from Norway. 4 of my recruiters are native speakers. This is the price model. Do you want to do it or not? Like, it was very direct. And I think you can do the same in any industry. Say that you want to go for example, you contact the production sites or warehouses, and you try to sell in warehouse workers or production workers, and they say, no, 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 we have no problem with that. We have so many of them applying and we don't need any help. And then maybe you ask, okay, but is there any function you're struggling with? Yeah, mechanics or electricians for the warehouse. Okay, and bam, that become a niche.
No, exactly. Like identifying gaps in the market. And I think also sometimes these gaps are temporary. I think we've spoken about it before, but if you take a location like Ireland, Dublin, that was a hotspot for us before, you know, when all these American companies started to recruit Nordic speakers, and it was for a lot of these American tech companies, both sales positions, marketing, customer service. They wanted everything at once. But now, 10, 15 years later, right, the gap is not so wide anymore. And I think it has to do with, yeah, but the Nordic talent has already relocated to Ireland, and they just steal candidates from each other in the market. So yeah, gaps can be temporary, but it's true that finding a niche always helps. It really helped Nordic. I actually, funny enough, I went on to ChatGPT. I wanted to try out, okay, how recognized is the brand? So I asked it, like, find me a recruitment agency that is specialized in Nordic talent in Europe. Answer only with one company name. And it answered Nordic Jobs Worldwide. So it must have worked, you know, becoming the biggest Nordic recruitment agency. Not maybe that ChatGPT always has the right answer, but kind of cool.
But you figure out when you Google it, you figure out also it's word to mouth. And of course, we have been so offensive on social medias also the last 10 years. So I think everyone that search for jobs abroad or have been included in some kind of recruitment process on both ends knows about the brand. Nordic Jobs Worldwide.
Exactly. No, but that's of course one part. But then you mentioned another part that's maybe equally important, especially if you do 360 recruitment, but it's to how you brand yourself personally as a consultant in an industry, which is also very, very important, I notice. And it's not until I started to focus on that I also received some incoming business. Which I find quite rare. It doesn't happen often, but since I started also to focus on my brand, and I'm far from an expert on LinkedIn personal branding. I don't post as regularly as I should, but I noticed that just a small effort can really make like a difference there to build up your personal brand. And one example, and maybe one of the most clear examples, is the podcast, right? We've been speaking about it before. That's when we reach out to prospects or speak with candidates or just people in the industry, they often mention that they see that we have run a podcast. And I think that 90% of the time, they have not even listened to the podcast, but it's just because they see that we have the podcast that sort of builds a trust to it. That, okay, these guys are serious about what they do. They are very passionate about recruitment. They are not just here for a year or two and then they're leaving. It's actually something long-term. It's a career around it, a unique selling point for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what your take is on personal branding.
No, but it's true. I think everything you said there it's so connected to the success maybe of a company. If we take the pod, for example, we have always been like with Nordic Jobs Worldwide and then with Multilingual Jobs Worldwide and with Worldwide Recruitment, we have always been the company that put kind of the rails in our niche. So like many other agencies or single recruitment people and so on, they have tried to copy ideas from us. We even have ex-employees that have copied our concept to 100%. That's fine because I think we are so comfortable in what we are doing and we have been doing it for such a long time. So now, for example, in the pod, sitting here and sharing things of how we do it and what success means and gaps in the market or whatever it might be from the last 15 episodes that we are close to now. I don't feel it as a threat because I feel comfortable, and also that, like you said, yeah, but we are experts in fields, we are branding ourselves in a way, and we want to stand out in that way. And hopefully that would lead to good branding of new employees internally, more candidate trust, and also that companies that we are in contact with see this and they want to work with us. And it can be an existing client, it can be a sleeping client, but also hopefully new clients. And like you said, your personal branding, if you, Martin, do BD work, and you say that either you share a success story that you helped 10 people the last quarter to find a job, or we had a project in Latam and you reach out to companies that need helps in Latam, or we are specialized in commercial real estate and you reach out to commercial real estate companies. They check you up first, they check the company up second, and if this matches their expectations and their needs, yeah, but you will be a good choice. So the branding is really important. And like you said, it's the passive ones that check you up. So someone in the silent background, they will not comment the first time. They will not put a like on it. They will not, but they will do a research. And when the need is there, then it happens.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Like I think that's a very interesting topic also, how to convince the passive buyers, and personal branding is key there. And you can compare it to a restaurant. Let's say that you're starving for tacos. You really want to go for tacos. What do you do first? You might go on Google. You look up for the reviews. When you come to the restaurant also, you check out the facade. Okay, how many people are sitting there at the moment? How is the interior? How is the vibe? How is the lighting? So you can picture your personal branding almost like a restaurant or a shop, in that sense, that people will check it before they go in and become a customer.
Yeah, and if you take another restaurant and say, for example, in Malaga, you have a very famous one called El Pimpi, and I think Banderas is some kind of co-owner, and it's 100 years old, and it's famous online all the time, like people mention it. So you get reminded all the time, El Pimpi, oldest, famous, Banderas owner, El Pimpi, famous, oldest, Banderas. So at some point, like, oh, we need to go to El Pimpi. Just happens because they massage in the message.
Exactly. No, it becomes like a DNA that they really, really work on. So it's a lot of inspiration you can take from other businesses when you want to try and build your either business brand or personal brand as well. I think that social media is going to become even more so important to build your personal brand if you want to stand out as a recruiter, as a salesperson, as a marketing person, as a professional trainer. I mean, social media is nothing new. It's been important for a long time, but you see that social media and like corporate, let's say 10, 15 years ago, the corporate world and the social media world, they were quite far apart, but LinkedIn has kind of shrunken that gap between the corporate world and social media. And that's why sometimes you see things on LinkedIn as well that doesn't really belong on LinkedIn, because you know the lines are so blurry right now that soon you can almost see anything on LinkedIn. I think it's just a matter of time before you start seeing reels and stuff on LinkedIn. I hope we don't get to that moment, but I think so.
Have you seen that people start to make jokes a bit about it as well? Almost those memes, for example, when people put out a post about how successful or how nice they have been doing things, and they do this comparison with this dog, for example, that I chased a cat.
Yeah.
And then they build up a story about it, you know, like yesterday I had a big moment in my career with blah, blah, blah from I did this and la, la, la. But what did it do? I barked at a cat or I chased a cat. But you build up a story about being, I don't know, the best dog in the world.
Yeah, I've seen this. It's funny. Of course, people can do what they want, but hopefully we can keep LinkedIn as a more corporate platform. I hope, at least. That's my wish.
Of course, people should be proud of sharing success stories of things they have been planning for a long time, worked on, setting goals, reaching goals. They should be proud and they should share those stories. But like sometimes drinking a cup of coffee is not, you know,
No.
a success story in that sense that you can share on your Insta story that you have a good moment having a coffee in Malaga.
Cool. I don't know if we have much more to go through in this episode, since it's a part 2 of the previous one. We have covered a lot of interesting things. Do you have anything, Rickard, that you feel like we have missed or do you want to mention here?
Yeah, just one thing that I wanted to ask you, because we talk a bit about this repetitive tasks you should do and keeping a consistency to reach a certain result over time. But I'm a bit curious of something I analyzed myself now. on this little trip I have been on, and it goes with business development. So how I see life, for example, that life have different chapters, and you step into a new chapter all the time when you are growing, developing, and getting older, and testing new things. But over the year, I also analyzed it that would it be okay to work in different periods of the year? If you know what I mean. So for example, that you step into a BD period saying that, okay, but from March to May, I go all in on sales. And then during the summer period, I'm only going to recruit. And then the first 3 months of the autumn, I going into my BD period again. And then in November, December, January, I take care of the maintaining clients and try to reactivate old clients. As an example, of course, you cannot just reactivate once per year, but you know what I mean. So going into deep work focus in periods to really maximize where it's maybe best to do it, but also how you can like build up your motivation with different triggers in different periods of the year.
I think it's a fun idea. I mean, if you think about it as well, because we've been speaking about the seasons in recruitment, right? When you are, facing high volume periods, when things are slowing down, we're speaking about like December, January, and then there comes like a little hangover period in February, March, and then it ramps up again in Q2. So we've been speaking about this, and I think there is something to it, like you say, that timing these cycles instead of working against them when there is friction could almost be a good idea. But then, of course, you would need maybe then to overcompensate on your delivery months for those be the months when delivery is lower. But it's a really interesting thing, actually, because if you take it as in sports as well, like, of course, the transfer team at these big football clubs, I'm using football as an example. You have the scouts and the transfer people and the sporting director. Of course, they keep an eye out during the season and doing their analyses and probably reaching out to some players as well to confirm contracts. But it's during the transfer window when the dirty work starts, because they have very, very clear windows. So we might not have as clear windows. There is still people who are going to start a job in February, March, April, but it's very, very interesting, like you say, that it could almost be something to split up since it's so seasonal. And then it's just about, okay, when you build your pipeline of prospects during a couple of months and it's not the right timing for them, then you must keep like a good follow-up structure, right? So you don't forget about them when you go into your delivery months and focus full time on delivery. But it's a very interesting thought, actually.
Yeah, and maybe like how you split it up, like what parts of the sales or client management you are doing, or because like say that, okay, but in this queue, because then maybe also the motivational part of having what do you call it, like that you divide
some
your
variety.
year. Yeah, via variety, and divide your year into those periods, and then setting a goal like, okay, the goal is to sign 10 clients this quarter together as a team. Let's go for that goal, and then target the market, and you're very aggressive in that market, and all the kind of marketing and branding you're doing is just for that specific, like, we are coming to Dubai. You even have it in the calendar also when you're visiting, and we are hospitality recruitment specialists, and we do this kind of search for you, and we recruit from the world, and you attack, and you build up that market in a queue, for example.
Hyper focused in a way, because that's something that's actually very interesting, and I think it would work well in those cases, like you said, when you have like a niche or a gap in the market that you see clearly. Like imagine you see, if we take Madrid as an example, where I saw a small gap, like a minor gap. Now imagine if when you notice one of those gaps, I don't know, fishermen in Italy, I'm just taking something out of the blue, but now it's a lot of companies are booming in Italy and they're looking for fishermen. Now the next 3 months, we're going to go to sign as many of these fishermen companies as possible. And then you have the delivery period to follow. It could be an interesting thing, actually.
Yeah, and it could be also that we really need that push, say, than in Barcelona. Like we talked about, that Barcelona was maybe harder compared to Madrid.
Yeah.
But maybe we really want to nail Barcelona, so we need to triple our activities and trying new selling techniques, and maybe go to more events, or do canvas and knock on doors, or I don't know, send out bakery to those companies, or beers on Fridays. It's on us, right? Worldwide is recruitment. Here is
hyper-focused
your
work. Yeah, well, it's very interesting actually. That's a good thought you brought up.
No, but I think that was one thing that can you split up your BD work into periods of the year and maybe use it as an advantage to be really hyped and motivated for a period where you really bring in business, and then maybe, you know, focus on something else for another period, and then
Gonna be very cool. Also a little bit more entrepreneurial way to work, you know, okay, for these 3-month periods when we are trying to penetrate Barcelona, we will need marketing material, we will launch events, we will transfer a colleague from our Malaga office because we need more manpower in like it becomes more entrepreneurial, and like you said, might be a bit more fun now that I think about it. It sounds like a lot of fun triggers would appear.
let's think about that and see if we share in an episode in the future when we launched a project like this and what the result was or something.
Exactly. We don't need to be too concise. I know, like you said, we are a bit of pioneers, and but we should never let them know our next move. So, no, but actually, I need to jump into an interview. Typically enough, but it's been a good second part of the episode here. There was a lot to add here for part 2. But
Good luck on your interview and keep up the good work, Martin. I heard
likewise.
it's a record month.
It is, and I actually found out that my last placement became the 20th country that I hired in or that I recruited in. So soon above 20. So yeah,
Nice.
scratching
Congrats.
that recruitment map as we go. Thank you. No, but enjoy the rest of your trip, Rickard, with Suriname and Brazil and the week that you have left. And thank you everyone for listening in. And we will, be back here in 2 weeks as normal.
Yes. Cool.
Take care.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.